Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausan Pereira. The Supreme Court on Thursday fixed a February end deadline for the search committee on Lokpal to recommend a panel of names for appointment of the country's first anti-graft ombudsman. The search committee is headed by former Apex Court Judge Ranjana Prakash Desai. A bench headed by Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi directed the centre to provide the search committee requisite infrastructure and manpower to enable it to complete its work. The bench, also comprising Justices L.N. Rao and S.K. Kaul, said it would hear the matter again on March 7th. Attorney General K K Venugopal, appearing for the centre, told the bench that there were certain problems like lack of infrastructure and manpower, due to which the search committee was not able to hold deliberations on the issue. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyse the role and powers of the Lokpal and Lokayuktas. Joining me on the programme today are Satya Prakash, legal editor of the Tribune, Ashok Tandon, senior journalist, and Abhishek Atre, advocate on record, Supreme Court. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Satya Prakash, I'd like to begin the program with you. Let's first try and put it into perspective and try and understand what is the role of the Lokpal.
Well, Lokpal, it's anti-corruption ombudsman, and that's the basic role. We have had several other agencies, like we have CVC, which is performing the task, but the Lokpal is slightly different in the sense Lokpal will have its jurisdiction over top executive, political executive, including the Prime Minister. So that's why Lokpal is important from the point of view of checking political corruption at the political level in states and at the centre. In states, we have system of Lokayuktas under this act. But what is important is, for the last almost 5 years, the act was passed in 2013, December, and in January it was notified. In the last 5 years, we have not been in a position to install a Lokpal. That's the sad part of it. And despite the Supreme Court's intervention, there are various problems, like initially even the leader of opposition, we don't have leader of opposition. So there was one issue whether the leader of opposition is not there, should we amend the law or allow the largest single party's leader in the Lok Sabha to be on the panel.
In this particular case, he's been invited as a special invitee, and that's something that has upset him, and he has not wanted to attend any of these meetings.
Yeah, he has, in fact, he has vacated all the meetings so far. So that's one of the issues. But the crucial part is there is a Supreme Court verdict on this aspect also. I think in 2017, the Supreme Court ruled that a vacancy in the selection panel will not vitiate the selection. So even if one member is not there, the selection committee can function. That's the Supreme Court's ruling. And thereafter, since things were not moving, an NGO Common Cause filed a PIL in the Supreme Court, and now the Supreme Court is hearing the PIL and asking the government to expedite the process. Another problem was Mr. P.P. Rao, senior advocate. He was member of the search committee, and he was part of the, he was on the panel as eminent jurist. He expired, then he had to be replaced. Now Mr. Mukul Mudgal is there in his place. But the entire process has been very, very slow, and the court has been trying to impress upon the government that it should be expedited. Now that the court has fixed a deadline, February end, let's hope that the search committee will complete its task and prepare a panel of names, and then the selection committee can sit and take a call.
Mr. Tandon, that seems to be the crux of the problem, isn't it? Why is it that we haven't been able to appoint a Lokpal in all these years?
See, unfortunately, the noble idea of Lokpal and Lokayukta has become a political issue, and that's why it has been hanging for such a long time. See, if we recall, the idea was taken from Sweden, where they had the ombudsman, and the then Prime Minister Nehru asked L.M. Singhvi to coin a parallel Hindi word, and L.M. Singhvi coined Lokpal and Lokayukt, and since then it has been going on and on. See, even the 1966 Administrative Reform Commission, headed by Morarji Desai, had suggested various steps to check graft in political circles and official circles. But as I said, initially the debate was whether the Prime Minister or the former Prime Minister should be part of the jurisdiction, and there was a huge debate on that, because you never know, there could be subjective element, and there may be an attempt to implicate the Prime Minister. So that debate continued, And it was finally in 2013 when Anna Hazare launched a fast unto death at Ramlila Maidan that the then UPA government hurriedly passed the Lokpal Lokayukt bill, and in 2013, which came into effect in 2014. And since then again there have been technical problems which my friend was also mentioning, and then there was another debate whether the Lokpal should be a single member or a multi-member forum. So all these things have been there because there has been apprehension in the minds of the people at large, particularly the political class, that you never know what shape this institution may take, because we already have so many institutions, like government corruption is scrutinized by CAG, and then we have CVC, we have CBI, we have Enforcement Directorate. So many agencies are already there, and this experiment of Lokpal, what shape will it take? So the apprehensions in the mind of the political class was one of the reasons why it got so much delayed. And another thing is that before the law came into force in 2014, several states already had Lokayukt, and some of them later on appointed Lokayukt, some even don't have even today.
Yeah.
And the experience of the states which had Lokayukt was not very good, because most of the complaints were regard to the non-governance, misgovernance, rather than the corruption charges. So, and the Maharashtra state, which had perhaps one of the first to have Lokayukt, and there was no, the arms given to Lokayukt, rather any police powers or anything. So, as a result of that, the Lokayukt experiment in many states has been not very positive, and therefore now there is a debate in certain states particularly have voiced against this institution, whether we really need this institution. And especially, if I may say so, the recent unfortunate incidents in the CBI has again raised eyebrows whether if the institution like CBI could get involved into this kind of a ruckus, where number 1 and number 2 are fighting with each other. So whether the institution of Lokpal will be effective in a democracy like India.
Right.
So I think although the act is there, Supreme Court, as you all very rightly said, Supreme Court wants this act to be, its provisions to be enacted, and it's a very good institution, but there are still skeptics who want another debate on this issue, whether in India do we really need another institution,
especially when we already have so
and
many.
we have so many arms. So therefore I think this debate will continue, although the Supreme Court directive will be complied with February, and a panel will be suggested. If you remember, the UPA government could not appoint a Lokpal before the 2014 election, and that's how it again went to the new government, and all these things are happening. So I think there is a very widespread apprehension in the political class that this could be misused by the successive governments when they come into power. So although we have a very independent judiciary, we have full faith in the judicial system.
In the Supreme Court's words, we could have another parrot.
Yes, so therefore I think although it act is there, so there is no question of reopening the whole issue. But as you said, why the reasons for delay are some of these reasons why it has not been enacted by successive governments.
Absolutely. Abhishek Atre, what is the jurisdiction really of the Lokpal?
Jurisdiction is very wide. It includes Prime Minister, all other ministers, all top officials. And see, there is a body of 9 persons, one will be chairperson, and 8 other persons will be there, half normal members and half judicial members. And the chairperson shall be ex or present Chief Justice or any sitting or ex judge of Supreme Court. Now, they have powers to give directions to all the agencies in India, like CBI, CVC. They can suspend, they can transfer any officers who is coming in way of inquiry. Their exact work is, they will work like investigating agency as well as like prosecuting agency. They shall have special courts. In fact, and when you go to remove any chairperson or any member of Lokpal, you have to follow the procedure which is applicable in the case of president and other certain like judges. Impeachment, you know very well. So this will be such a powerful organization. If Lokpal is being appointed, it's fear in the minds of all the governments. It will be more powerful than the Prime Minister. And from the very beginning, in all the societies, king is only one. So everyone think who will be the king. he will be the king or the Prime Minister will be the king, because he is the only person who will have powers above Prime Minister. So it's very powerful body if it is going to be implemented.
Right. Satya Prakash, do we need a Lokpal and Lokayuktas?
Well, I would say we need. And the only question is how much power you give to Lokpal.
Yeah, how much teeth do you give the Lokpal?
If you ask me, we are in an era where the authority of the executive has been eroded significantly. All executive institutions, because of various reasons, they are losing credibility and their authority has been eroded. And in many areas, judiciary has encroached. Here is a law. There are a couple of laws in which the pure executive powers are being shared with the judiciary. This is also one of them, where appointing a Lokpal, somebody from judiciary becomes part of the executive exercise. Appointing CBI chief, CJI or his nominee becomes part of the executive exercise. So the power and authority of the executive has been very significantly eroded because of the credibility issue. But what is important is, if you create such a body and give it authority over the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister becomes amenable to its jurisdiction, as he rightly pointed out, you cannot have two power centers. It's too powerful a body to have in India. So my view, ideally this law should not have given, or Lokpal should not have been given power over or authority over the Prime Minister. Prime Minister should have been kept aside. But having said that, the law ensures that the Lokpal doesn't take off properly. It has been given so wide jurisdiction and everything has been brought under the Lokpal. All the government officers, even non-government organizations receiving aid, receiving money to a particular extent, they are also amenable to Lokpal's jurisdiction. The irony is the Lokpal doesn't have an investigating agency of its own. It will depend upon the CBI, the caged parrot. So there are too many contradictions in the entire process. Even if it's installed, my hunch is that initially it will have problems and it may not take off quite well. Maybe in the next 2, 3, 4 years, whatever problems they face, thereafter some judicial pronouncements or maybe some amendments, then it might work well.
Mr. Tandon, will that work? A diluted Lokpal really going forward, but then what's the point of the Lokpal, some people may ask?
No, there has already been one amendment in which the spouses and the adult members of the sons and daughters have been taken out of the
bureaucrats and politicians and all that.
See, as I said, the law was passed in a hurry in the wake of the Anna Hazare agitation, and now since it is in force, the problems are now surfacing. And so, but see, if you look at the experience of the Lokayukt in states, they were burdened with all kinds of frivolous complaints also, because when you know there is an institution which will receive your complaint, all sorts of frivolous complaints are also made. Then the scrutiny itself becomes difficult. That is the experience of the states which already have Lokayukt. And therefore, the very idea of Lokayukt seems to be getting defeated. So therefore, we have yet to experiment Lokpal. But I still feel that in a democracy like India, where we already have checks and balances in our constitution, and our judiciary is quite vigilant even in respect of the corruption cases, but we still do need a Lokpal. But then we need to have, if nobody thought that in India 3 judges of the Supreme Court will come out and hold a press conference against the Chief Justice. Now, what happens tomorrow if some members of the Lokpal come out openly and accuse the chairperson? You never know. So, therefore, all sorts of apprehensions are still there in the minds of the people, particularly the political class, and therefore, I think the debate is healthy. I am glad that you have raised this issue, but the fact remains it is a law now. We may change accordingly if and when necessary, but I appreciate and I welcome the Supreme Court order that now at least the panel should be before the committee which is to select the Lokpal. Some headway must be done. Otherwise, it seems as if deliberately hurdles are being created in the way of institutionalizing the Lokpal. So I am glad that now a deadline has been fixed. It's a very positive step, and of course the search committee will come up with some names, and we do hope that before the 2019 general election, the Lokpal institution will be in place. Otherwise, again it may get deferred before once the the notification for the 2019 election is issued. I am not sure whether the Lokpal institution can still be set up. So, therefore, it is a very welcome step. We should hope that at least the name of panels will be before us before the February end.
Right. And Abhishek Atre, as far as the scope and as far as the the powers of the Lokpal and the Lokayuktas are concerned, how do we change that really? If a dilution needs to be made, if something needs to be added, will Parliament have to deliberate on that?
Ultimately, after inquiry, what Lokpal will do? It's a body. It has to take work from this agency, this system. They have to refer their report that they can recommend a case should be initiated in special courts against prevention of against those persons who is found guilty as per their inquiry, under Prevention of Corruption Act and IPC. This is the only thing. Again, matter will go to the courts. Special provisions of special courts are there. Ultimately, matter will go before judiciary. So, in judicial system, we have to reform first. If we want actual exact results against corruptions, we have to make our judiciary more powerful. There are so many vacancies in our judicial systems. As far as population is growing, in that number, our vacancies are not growing. Rather, half of the vacancies in India are vacant at all the levels. That's another thing. Ultimately, this report will be sent to the president of Lokpal, by Lokpal. Now, there is power, as far as power centers are concerned, the main what is in my mind, that he is so powerful that he cannot be removed without impeachment, and impeachment is such a process that in India we cannot see any occasion has occurred that any person has been removed by impeachment. So,
all right, there are several contradictions there. You cannot have such a powerful authority, such a powerful body is what you are suggesting. Yes, Mr. Ranjan.
No, I have full faith in our judicial system, and I will also have full faith in the Lokpal bench, if may call it. But the only problem is, if there are frivolous complaints and they are immediately leaked to the media, then it will be trial by the media itself. Because suppose if there is a complaint against the Prime Minister, before the Lokpal takes cognizance of it and it gets leaked to the media, then it will amount to media trial. So, in that process there is apprehension that people will file frivolous complaints against people in high position just to malign them. And by the time the hearing is done and the conclusions are before us, the person has already been hanged.
Right.
So, all these apprehensions are there in India. Especially we see that media is not following the strict law of the land, because we know you are not supposed to name a person till he has been produced before a magistrate. But today, the moment there is a raid, the moment there is an arrest, it is highlighted in the media. So, that apprehension also will have to be taken care of by the Lokpal. Otherwise, it may become trial by the media. So, there may be a demand from certain quarters that the hearing of the Lokpal should be in public. That means the media should be allowed. So, that will be a crossing that Lakshman Rekha. So, all these apprehensions are there, but I still feel that in a democracy like India, we must give a trial to Lokpal, and we will see what happens. Then there could be amendments to the Act. Parliament is empowered to amend the Lokpal bill, which is already done once. So, I think let us wait, but the fact remains that there are very widespread apprehension in the minds of the people about the functioning and the way Lokpal will act, because it is an experiment.
Right.
So, we will have to see what happens.
Right. Satya Prakash, some states have Lokayuktas and the others don't. I mean, what's the problem there?
Well, the problem is exactly what is happening at the center. The political class is very apprehensive about installing a Lokpal or Lokayukta. In many states, like in Karnataka, the Chief Minister had to resign because of Lokayukta, certain reports and all. So, many states, the political class, they are very apprehensive, and the same reason is everywhere.
And even the powers really given to the Lokayuktas in different states is very different, if you look at it.
Depending upon the state, because some of them had already enacted, some of them are enacting, have enacted after this law. But there are 2-3 issues. One is about laws made in hurry. This law was made in hurry, as has been pointed out, because of civil society agitation. Civil society agitations have in many ways some positive impact on lawmaking, because it changes the entire dynamics of lawmaking, because generally lawmaking is a top-down phenomenon. The lawmakers, policymakers, they decide what the law should be and enact it and implement it. But here there are some exceptions. RTI is one. This is another exception where people from grassroots level or civil society, they decided that we should have a particular kind of law, and they launched a campaign, and the political class had to accede to their demand and enact a law. The sad part is that in the process it was so hurriedly enacted that there are some flaws in the law. So that can be rectified in due course, but there are certain aspects of this law which needs to be corrected.
One point I
Can I
want to
finish?
point out. Sorry.
The one is it should have its own investigation wing. Why? Because CBI is already too burdened. If you ask CBI to investigate all the cases which Lokpal wants to investigate, it will be difficult for CBI, because then you need to augment their manpower, infrastructure, all the allied things. So before you assign CBI to Lokpal, either you augment the manpower, infrastructure, everything of the CBI, or you give the Lokpal a separate, completely independent investigating agency. Otherwise, Lokpal would be handicapped. So this is one aspect where Lokpal Act, it's going to face huge problems in the future.
Yes, Mr. Ranjan.
No, I was just trying to point out two things. One, that the Lokayuktas of Karnataka, Mr. Santosh Hegde, inducted Mr. Yediyurappa as the Chief Minister, and he had to resign. But he got acquittal from the CBI court, and he is free today. Another point is, today in the light of what is happening in the CBI, several states are openly opting out of the CBI inquiry. So, you know, in a federal structure, what will happen if there is a complaint referred from the state, referred by the Lokpal to CBI, and states refuse to cooperate. So, all these things are there. So, today I think several states have already openly said we don't want CBI inquiry. So, therefore, all these apprehensions will remain. But as I said, we must give a try to the Lokpal institution.
Okay. Yes.
Another point I find quite intriguing, because half the posts of Lokpal, there are 8 members. So 4 of the members, I can understand they should be from judiciary, but there is another clause which says half the members will belong to scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, backward classes, women, minorities. This I don't find it has any nexus to the object which the Act seeks to achieve. Corruption is something, it doesn't have to be related to a particular, there is no way you can say that a particular community member from a particular community will be best suited to investigate. What is required is any person belonging to any community or caste or creed should be in a position, the person's ability to investigate
merit, basically,
cases,
over anything else.
and his ability and merit so far as investigation of corruption cases is concerned, his understanding of those things, that should be relevant. So this I find quite intriguing, and it's rather extraneous. So if there is a challenge to this particular provision, there is a likelihood that court would entertain it and maybe set it aside.
Okay, closing comments from all my guests, starting first with you, Abhishek Katre. Do you see any legal hurdles, any kind of legal challenges going forward, really, as far as this particular issue is concerned?
Let's see, as far as legal challenges are concerned, the challenge by common cause is only that Lokpal is not being appointed. But as far as search committee, I am saying if you see the composition of search committee, so many eminent persons are there. Justice Gyansudha Mishra, Ranjit Kumar, ex-Solicitor General of India, Mukul Rohgi is now ex-Attorney General of India. They are on the panel, they are going to decide. ISRO chairperson, I am saying. So they will find out. Definitely there is no problem within time fixed by Supreme Court. They will
so it's going to be foolproof is what you're suggesting.
Yes. But even after having this, what is going in my mind after seeing the entire act, and as my learned friend was saying that they should have separate investigating agency. The question here is how many investigating agencies we will have in India. There are so many agencies. Police is there in all the states. Now CBI is there, CVC is there, and one more investigating agency, what they will do.
Yeah.
The investigating agency, people are here, investigating agency is sufficient, our laws are sufficient. Ultimately, there no other offences being provided in this act. The offences of corruptions are already there in Prevention of Corruption Act and IPC, and they will go by them also.
So you're suggesting that we strengthen the existing system that we have already, and it will probably take care of all of this as well.
There should be honesty at all levels.
All right. Best way forward, Mr. Tandon.
Well, we must have faith in our system, in our judiciary, in our search committee, and also in the Lokpal panel, which will be eventually constituted. But we cannot ignore the fact that there is politics in everything. I am afraid the day the panel is suggested, it becomes public, there will be accusations that so and so has a political overtone, so and so is a appointee of the government, and politics will be there even on the panel itself. Leave aside when the final Lokpal is instituted, but that part, I think we have to live with all these things, and we must go ahead with the institution of Lokpal, which is necessary considering the level of corruption we are in the global index.
Right.
We are 81st in the entire international community when it comes to the corruption index. So I think and it's rampant at all levels even today, although the government has taken effective steps, and at least so far there has been no corruption charge against the Modi government, but fact remains that at the lower level and at other various levels, corruption is there in India, and we need to check it.
Right.
And therefore, I think we should give a try to institution of Lokpal.
Yes, Abhishek Khatri.
What I was saying, as far as this powers, this privileges, this immunity of Lokpal is concerned, today they cannot be removed without impeachment. But there is an act made by Parliament, a law developed by the need of the day. And tomorrow, as he suggested, tomorrow if we feel any need that there may be allegations, we cannot rule out possibility. There cannot be any allegation at any point of time against the members of these Lokpal. Then we can also, government can also amend this law to dilute their powers.
Right.
So we need not to worry.
Dilution has already happened once. It can happen again, is what you're suggesting. Satya Prakash, close the show for us with your
Just
concluding remark.
one correction. Impeachment is provided for only for the president in the constitution. Rest all, even judges, Supreme Court judges, they are all removed. The process is removal. Impeachment word is only for president.
Like impeachment. I use the word like impeachment.
Okay.
So far as
like impeachment.
Yeah, it's a technical term as far as impeachment is concerned. Yes, you're right, Satya Prakash, as far as the president is concerned. Let's not get into a debate there. Yeah,
this
concluding
law,
remark, yes.
So far as this law is concerned, we must go ahead with the experiment. This is first time we are going to have this kind of institution in this country. Law has been passed. Supreme Court has asked the search committee to complete the task by Feb end. We must go ahead with the experiment. We must install Lokpal. If there are any loopholes in the entire system, that will be rectified in due course. But this is high time we installed Lokpal.
All right. On that note, then we'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Let's give it a try. Let's give the Lokpal a try is what the panelists here are suggesting. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.